Mail Day! Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We got Big E, we got Rudo, and AJ back on the pod to answer a bunch of your questions on the show today. Obviously, there are a lot of questions circling around the Colorado Avalanche right now, given the situation they're in. I don't think we have to overcomplicate it. We got a ton of questions, so we can kind of just jump in and get into them. Let's not go any further than that. Just gonna pick a bunch at random, and we'll answer. Starting off with John, who says, why do the Avs have such an affinity for undersized defensemen? Even Brian Boucher with TNT observed the Avs' undersized D, especially Girard, were getting ragdolled by the Stars. I think the kind of premise of the question is false. The Avs, one, have had wild success with undersized defensemen, including guys like Cale Makar, who are the best defensemen on the planet. But two, actively went out and made their defense bigger this year. Obviously, they had Josh Manson, but they also went out and got Ryan Lindgren. They also went out and got Erik Johnson, and they still lost
Middleton.
the series. Yeah, sure, Middleton's been on the team. The undersized defensemen they use, they like because it works with their system, which highly, highly encourages defensemen moving forward, breakouts, especially with your feet. But even then, they actively went out and got bigger, so I don't really know that the premise is even true.
Yeah, this was, Jack Johnson's not small, and he was like their third pairing guy for years.
Yeah.
Outside of a 4-month vacation to Chicago, which was strange for everybody involved. Like Sean Walker, last year's deadline guy, definitely is a smaller guy who plays a smaller game. But yeah, I really don't like the premise of this question. This is like, why is Sam Girard on the team? Like cloaked in. Why do the Avs like small defensemen? It's just about it's just basically always comes back to why is it Sam Girard? And you knew as soon as that puck ricocheted in off of his skate that it was going to be like, oh boy,
sure.
Here comes the Sam Girard hate, justified or not. And I've largely stayed off of the internet over the last week or so. Yeah, just to try to decompress and not get so lost in all this disdain for everything Avalanche related. But I think Rudo, you touch on the big reason why they have had an affinity for those guys, Eric Brandstrom, Oliver Shillington. They like the puck moving guys because they want their defensemen to attack. Their defensemen have led the NHL in D scoring for like 5 straight years. Like, they want guys who have puck skill, because when you look at Ryan Lindgren, and yeah, Ryan Lindgren's not big, but he's absolutely physical and he absolutely has that kind of grit and sandpaper, but he also brings surprisingly solid skating, but he has no puck skill. And when you look at him in Colorado's system and you look at what happens when he gets in the offensive end, you go, whoa, this guy really doesn't look like he fits great into this, right?
Yeah.
So it's a balance. How many guys do both of them really well? Bowen Byram was the dream. He had good size. He was a really good defender. He could bring a physical element, and he has all kinds of puck skill. But he could never, and this has still been true since he got to Buffalo, put all of it together on a consistent basis. And that is, I think that's really their big problem here, is that they have been having to choose, because of salary cap constraints, they've been having to choose between guys who are good at one or the other. And they have been erring on the side of we want the guys who fit better. And for me, that's justifiable because you have to pick one of them. Do you want a guy that's a misfit, or do you want a guy that is a better fit but isn't very big? And sure. I think that's where you end up.
There's no such thing as the perfect player. We have the perfect player, Cale Makar. There's one, in the world. Other than that,
10 years ago, Cale Makar would be considered heavily undersized. So,
yeah,
his draft.
Here's what I'll say about Sammy G. Just to close it up on that. There's two parts to this. Sammy G would be welcome, Dallas included, on 32 teams out of 32. So 32 teams would take Sam Girard. He's a heck of a player. Is he a perfect player? No. Is he, I'll say what I've said before. If you're getting Sam Girard because you want him to battle in front of your net, then you got the wrong guy. Most times he's not battling in front of the net. He's getting himself out. There's a reason the Avalanche give up 20 shots a night or whatever it is, because of guys like him that don't allow the opposition to get the puck and to get to the front. Yeah, is that a bit of a weakness? Sure. It's math. He's not the biggest guy. 32 teams would take him. Not because I'm biased towards him, because that's a fact. And the last thing I'll say about him is we saw last year when he was gone for 30 games, that's when you realize how much you miss Sam Girard when he's not around. Yeah. So and that's when you're like, oh crap, what's going on? Yeah. So this is what I'll say.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions.
Who's breaking this puck out on the beyond the top pairing? Who's getting the puck out of the zone? What's going on here? Sam Girard he's a complex player because his strengths and weaknesses. His strengths are a lot more nuanced than his weaknesses, and that makes his value a lot harder for to just sit and watch the game, and you see it because you don't see overwhelming production. He's right around a 30-point defenseman pretty consistently in his career. He struggles right in front of his net. He's not great in any kind of physical battle because he's 5'9". Like the weaknesses, especially for a defenseman, are very pronounced. But the strengths they're so nuanced that it can be tough to really I could sit here and I could show you all of his micro stats and all of the tracking that has been done on Girard that show you, hey, he's not just really good at what he does well. He's high end at what he does well. And for $5 million, you're talking about in this cap environment with it exploding the way that it is, it's pretty good. Like he's a fairly compensated player. The Avs are happy with that $5 million. It's a fair number. And
the big thing for me is Girard has shortcomings. And then you also watch Josh Manson throw a grenade to the middle of his own zone that ends up in the back of your net. And you're like, okay, so he's got problems too. It is what it is. We don't have enough time to go into more detail on it because we have a bunch of questions. So let's keep rolling here. Our boy, Winnipeg Luke, says Tampa Bay made a trade last year where they moved Sergachev for a former first-round pick, Connor Geekie, Mosier, a second and seventh-round picks. Should the Avs be looking to do the same, move a higher-end player, Taves, Nuke, Leckie, and try to add some depth and high upside youth? Look, any trade should be on the table at any time, right, if it makes you better. The Avs don't really have a player like Sergachev that they can move. Sergachev was 25 at the time of the trade and was blossoming into a top-pairing defenseman for them. You're not trading Makar. I know you just said anyone should be on the table, but you're not trading Makar. The one that looks the most enticing to maybe move on from right now is probably Nichushkin, but I don't know how much value he would have around the league right now.
They did this deal.
What's his no trade, no movement? What is he?
I don't actually know what Nuke has on that front. Let me look.
Yeah, they did. This trade happened already. This was the Mikko Rantanen deal. They got younger with Netchis. They get an extra player who plays a meaningful role for them in Drury, and they got a second-round pick, which turned into Lindgren. You can say, hey, a third-pairing defenseman, a fourth line center and a top line right wing, I want better value than that, but I don't know what better value you're going to get.
Yeah.
So I just, yeah, go ahead.
This season it becomes a 12-team no trade list for Nuke.
July 1st?
What, on like July 1st?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at everything. You do. Right?
I would say if we were trying to make that that kind of deal, Rudo, I agree with you. Nichushkin would be top of my list. I'll probably write a piece about it because we have 2 months of this to go through.
Yep.
So this is one of the things at the top of my brain rattling around. But it's not an enthusiasm to trade Nichushkin, just a, hey, in a world where we're considering most all options, because I'm not trading Makar and I'm not trading McKinnon. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not. But it's, Nichushkin would be like higher up on my list of like, hey, if you wanted to trade Val Nichushkin for a second pairing defenseman, essentially to replace Josh Manson, that would I think would be the goal. And
part of me worries that I'm like, oh, we can just trade Nichushkin because Landy's back now. And
yeah,
look, he looked pretty darn good in that playoff series, but what does he look like across the course of a full season is still TBD.
Yeah. You know who didn't look very good in that playoff series was Val Nichushkin.
Not wrong.
He had big moments, but not big games. Big moments, like that goal.
Yeah.
Then a 2-goal
he played
game,
well in 2 of 7 games. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, after what happened the last 2 years, you should have been good for 7, right? That was the expectations.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Keep moving here. Anthony asks, are we all bearing witness to the beginning of the decline era, much like Tampa Bay's window, Pittsburgh? They remain competitive enough to grab a spot and fight up and comers off, but are never a serious threat again, too steep a hill. This is a hindsight thing. In 5 years, we'll know if this was the beginning of the decline or not. Right now, you can't really know. What I will say is Avs 1.0 went 4 years in between their cups. You've seen multiple other teams. Tampa Bay made a cup final and then went like 8 years before they finally won one. So there are longer windows than a 3-year shortcoming, but we won't really know for a while.
Well, forget about the third period, game 7, 10 minutes, whatever. Forget about that. That we all know. We don't need to rehash that. All I'm saying is you were that close from making one play in game 2 or 3. Just make one play in game 2 or 3. You wrap up that series earlier. So you're talking about one play. And again, you're going to say you got to make that play. No, I know. Look at last night. Draisaitl, McDavid made that play. You know what I mean? So you were one play away and you didn't get it. You didn't get those big plays at the right time. So you can't say that you're on a decline, but I understand the question because it's a fair question. You know what I mean? Because it's true. I mean, but the margin is so thin. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, and knowing that they're going to get worse this summer because they just cannot ice that roster next year, even if they were to bring everybody back at the same exact amount of money, they wouldn't be allowed to. They would be over the cap, and so it's like you're going to get worse.
Yep.
And so it is a you're going to get worse. How much worse are you going to get? How much different are you going to get? How is CMac in the front office going to manage this? The challenge that they have facing them this summer. It's the defining question, but also, they were so aggressive last year that it's like, hey, I think they recognize that this is their moment, and I think even if they go into the next season after kind of a lackluster summer, you're not going to count this front office out you're not going to sit there and say, well, they're just going to sit around. This is not a front office that has shown a willingness. To sit around. They're trying things. So I think that, I think that they are. They're probably going to be worse, and this isn't going to be the most fun summer to be an Avalanche fan, but the aggressiveness of this front office, it gives me hope that they're not seriously on a decline. And then, yeah, don't have a million injuries and don't play the third best regular season team in round 1, and I like your chances. I like your chances a lot better.
Yep.
Big plays.
Okay, we do have to take our first break
Big
here,
play.
so let's jump in and do that before we answer a bunch more questions, as we are brought to you by one of our new sponsors in First Bank. Look, I think we're all Jared Bednar defenders on this show. One thing he could definitely do better, use his timeouts. Make sure you're using your timeouts when you're in sports, but avoid them. Go Jared Bednar style when it comes to banking. That's why First Bank offers you the tools and services to take control of your money wherever you are. With their secure, easy-to-use mobile banking app, you can check your balance, pay friends, and stay on top of your money anytime, anywhere. It's banking that moves with you. And you can get something extra. Open a new First Bank checking account and you could earn $300. It's a simple way to kickstart better banking and enjoy a little reward for making smart money moves. So if you're ready to take your banking to the next level, check out efirstbank.com/bonus. That's efirstbank.com/bonus to learn more and get started. Better banking is just a few taps away with First Bank. Certain restrictions, of course, apply. Member FDIC. Once you're set up with First Bank, make sure you're heading down to the official vehicle of DNVR in Toyota. Get to your local Front Range Toyota dealerships. They've got a vehicle for everyone. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, you name it. And they've got 17 of those in all-wheel drive capacity, 16 with hybrid or electric, including even trucks that have the hybrid. So go check out Toyota, whether it's the Land Cruiser or the Prius or the Tundra. Whatever it is, they've got a vehicle for you. Not just the official vehicle of us, but the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche as well. So get to your local Front Range dealerships, including AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corbin Toyota and Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, let's go places. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We'll keep rolling here. Next question from Andrej, I can't pronounce names. You all know this by now. Are you confident that Bednar will finally beat DeBoer in the playoffs next year? Is it the right decision for the Avs to keep him? I believe it's the right decision to keep him, and am I confident he'll beat DeBoer? No. Let's be honest. There is now a track record that he's not been able to beat DeBoer, that the Avs have not been able to beat Dallas. I don't think you can realistically be confident that. Can he beat them? Yes, I believe he absolutely can. I believe he probably should have this year. The Avs collapsed. It is what it is. But to say I confidently expect the Avs to beat DeBoer in Dallas would just not be true.
Also, those are two teams that have a lot of roster overhaul coming from
True.
What just happened. Like, we think that the Avs are kind of in a bad way with where they're at with the cap. Dallas is worse. Dallas has like $6 million to spend, and they have to figure out Jamie Benn, Matt Duchene. Those alone are big contracts, and a bunch of their guys get huge raises. Like, there's not a lot of room for Dallas to get better. So I until they start buying out some of their bad contracts, like Matt Dumba. But I would just say, like, no, I have absolutely zero confidence that the Avs that Bednar will beat DeBoer next year. But we don't even know what those teams look like right now. Before you get into the unpredictability of injuries and all that, I don't know how you would pick Colorado. They just lost a 7-game series against Dallas, missing Jason Robertson and Miro Heiskanen. It almost doesn't matter. It could be a 1-8 thing, and you would still have to be like, Colorado has proven no ability to get this done against this head coach and his teams, and now against the Stars in this era. So, no, I don't have any of that confidence. But no, you're also not getting rid of Jared Bednar because, yeah, it's easy to turn around and say, oh, we'll get rid of Jared Bednar. Great. Now what? Who do you go hire that's going to do a better job, that's going to fit with your core? That's going to be, are you suddenly going to ask Nathan MacKinnon to be this like super solid two-way guy that scores 75, 80 points for you? Like, it's right. It's a very, like, getting rid of people is easy to do, but replacing them is a hugely important factor. And Jared Bednar's a really good head coach, and if the Avs let him go, he would have another job in 19 seconds.
It'd be the Monty situation all over again.
Yeah, like he would have it. Somebody would get fired so that they could go and get Jared Bednar. He's a really good head coach.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I'll just touch it on quickly what you said about 1.0 earlier. So it's so relatable. It is crazy because they're built the same way. I understand that it's a different era, salary cap. Put that aside. We all know that. At the end of the day, it's the same concepts. It's the same morals. It's the same foundations of a team, a franchise. Yeah, they went years, like Rudo said, without finding that right recipe. You know what I mean? And Dallas was a nemesis. And Ken Hitchcock was the nemesis at the time. It was the same thing. Game 7, went to get Ray Bohr. Oh, the first was Fleury, went to get Fleury. And you're talking about trades. And again, my dad's not here to defend himself, but that's a trade that looks bad afterwards because you lost a first rounder in Robin Regeer that played 15 years in the NHL. You lost things that the guy walked away and he gave you nothing in the playoffs. No offense to Theo, I'm saying it didn't work out. You know what I mean? So You tried, you swung, and then you went back, and then the next year it was, I don't want to hear the money, like it's still the assets. Then you try, you went and got Ray Bohr. You know what I mean? And it didn't work. People tend to forget. They think they see Joe passing the cup. It didn't work in 2000. They lost Game 7 in Dallas. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of similarities, and a lot of swings, and a lot of misses, and you got to get back, and it just happened to be the same team. But at the end of the day, 20 years later, Dallas had 1 cup, and Colorado's had 3. You know what I mean? And that's it. And yep. Bob Hartley, had a Stanley Cup. And so far, I like Pete DeBoer. I love Jared Bednar. Pete DeBoer's got no Stanley Cups. He's 0 for 3 in the finals. So, I mean, there's a narrative for everything, right? So
yeah, of course.
But yeah,
he just needs to go against Bednar in a Stanley Cup final.
In a cup,
finally win one.
Just needs to make a Game 7, apparently.
Go to the Eastern Conference, Pete DeBoer. You'll have your chance to get Jared Bednar in a Stanley Cup final. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Byron had a rapid-fire bunch of questions. I'll give a rapid-fire bunch of answers back. Do they give Oscar Olausson a chance to fill Drouin's role? No. Where do they go from here? I mean, they have a long offseason ahead of them with a lot of work to do. Can they trade Coyle and Girard? Can they? Yes. Will they? Maybe. I don't think they'll trade Coyle, actually. Girard, maybe. Do they try to land someone like Byfield for Guyayev and a bunch of firsts? I doubt Byfield would be available. Also, they shouldn't target Byfield, in my opinion. And unless they start trading 12-year-olds, they don't have a bunch of firsts. So those are my answers to that one.
But even LA, Quentin's on his ascension, right? And it's a matter of they'll trade him only if they don't feel that they give him the money that he feels he deserves, right? That would be the one, or else why would you trade him, right? You're going to keep him,
It would be hard for the Avs to have the assets to feel good about that trade, I think. But
and I mean, we're back to the wing center thing. Was Quentin Byfield shown an ability to be a high-end center in the NHL?
Yeah.
No, he hasn't.
All right. Next up, Nicholas, with not many picks available and the prospect pool being quite depleted, is there a scenario where they might have to do a hard reset, trade a star or even second-tier players soon to avoid a lengthy rebuild in 3 or 4 years? Again, they kind of already did that with Mikko as far as trading a star player is concerned. No, I think the reality of most teams is whenever you get to the point that your window closes is you have some painful years. That's the normal life cycle of an NHL team. I don't think the Avs are particularly close to that. They said it themselves. As long as you have McKinnon and Makar, you've got a shot. So you're doing whatever you can to build around those two guys to push until they. I mean, what you have at least 2 or 3 high-end years, assuming health, out of McKinnon, and hopefully 6+ left of Makar.
Yeah. Well, and guys like that, you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen
they could play till they're 40. Yeah.
We could have 7 more years of elite level Nathan MacKinnon.
Yep.
And as long as you have that, you're at least going to have an opportunity.
Yep. Agree. All right. Kyle says, with Sullivan out, does the Crosby thing get rethought, wanting to stay in Pittsburgh? I mean, look, it's a fun story. I want it to happen. I think everyone in Colorado at least wants it to happen,
including Chris McFarland and Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah, I
agree. I don't think this is a case of Colorado just sitting around on their hands here. I think it's Sidney Crosby does not want to leave Pittsburgh, and until he expresses that desire, there isn't anything that any of us can do. Colorado, you know,
yep.
I would believe that Colorado pretty aggressively
I'd
chopped
put it this
some
way.
of the pieces that they traded at the deadline last year in talking with Kyle Dubas, and then Crosby was like, I don't want to leave.
Yep.
And okay, that's the end of that conversation.
Before this year's trade deadline, I would have put it at 0%. At this year's trade deadline, it's more than 0. I don't know that's a lot, but it's more than 0.
Well, yeah. Again, what is the date today? May something. I don't even know.
May 9th.
May 9th. Okay, I'm going to say I agree with Rudo. It was at 0 myself too, remember? And then all of a sudden I was like, talking to people, like I was telling AJ, if I remember, like, I think this is like, they're going to try like to see. And again, it went back to 0 because he didn't want to move, right? So you can do whatever you want. You can offer whatever you want. If the player doesn't want to move, then he wasn't going to get moved. So he, at the end of the day, ultimately didn't want to get moved. Now, I think this is my odds May 9th. 33% Pittsburgh. 33% Montreal Canadiens. Just because I'm just telling you, he's a big Habs fan. His dad was drafted by Montreal. He loves being in Montreal. He played in Quebec in the Q. So I'm telling you, and he's a fit there. And then 33% Colorado Avalanche for all the reasons. So I don't think it's a matter of a trade because this guy's done so much for this. They're just going to make it fair. You know what I mean? It's not going to be like, oh, it's 10 first-round picks, which we don't have,
Yeah, that's the other part of this is that Sidney Crosby's not going to be on an open market with, okay, everybody send me your best offers. Right. It is going to be very specifically, these are the 2 or 3 teams. All of that is going to artificially, it's going to keep that price down.
Yeah.
So it's this there's no Cal Ritchie and there's no first-round picks. The Penguins are not going to get some amazing haul that's going to kickstart their rebuild. They're going to get what they can get, but the reality here is that Sidney Crosby is 37 and he's only going to go to 1 or 2 teams, and he's going to be expensive if they don't retain salary. He's really expensive in terms of the contract. If they do retain, that helps, but that hurts their rebuild. So all of the balancing that goes into that, keep in mind, it's going to be a little bit like what we saw with Claude Giroux leaving Philadelphia, where, yeah, he's ultimately going to get moved for like a first-round pick, but is it going to be a lot more than that? No. And that's if he decides to leave Pittsburgh, which at the moment isn't happening.
Seems unlikely, yeah.
But we have to continue having this conversation because we won't let it die.
Because people want it to happen again. It's not going to.
Yeah, he's not leaving at the moment. He's not leaving Pittsburgh. If he expresses willingness to leave Pittsburgh, Colorado will be involved. It will not be some groundbreaking, insane haul that completely mortgages the Avs' future. That was the Brock Nelson deal.
One-word answer from Katie. Outside of MacKinnon and Makar, biggest reason for optimism for next season is a full year of Blackwood-Wedgwood tandem. Agree or disagree?
Yes. Agree. Yes. Sorry.
All right. We're all in agreement on that. Perfect.
I messed that question up.
A few more bills. Agree, yes. Same word, basically, right? I mean, same thing. I don't know. We are brought to you by the folks over at Empire Today. Make sure your foundation is better than AJ's foundation in English on that question. Never mind that he's the best writer on the show right now. That's okay.
I'm under attack.
Go get yourself some new floors with Empire Today. Get $350 off your new floors. EmpireToday.com/DNVR. Make sure you're using that DNVR code. They only carry the best products. If you want to go in and check them out, it's the best. They don't carry any of the junk floors that are going to go wrong in a couple of years. No, they carry the good stuff, whether it's tile, hardwood, or carpet. They've got it all. They'll come out. They'll give you a free in-home estimate. They'll bring out carpet squares or whatever you want to call them. You can see them in your space. You can see what they look like with your walls, with your furniture. If you don't want to see human beings, you can even do it online. You can measure out your space and see what the floors might look like in that space. So go get with Empire today. Do it right now if you want to get that $350 discount off your floors. You can schedule that free in-home estimate over at EmpireToday.com/DNVR or use that promo code DNVR to get your $350 discount. Of course, restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DNVR for full details, or you can always call 1-800-588-2300-EMPIRE. Also brought to you by the fantastic folks over at Mando. If you stink, Mando will solve the problem. I don't know. I feel like I should be pretty direct about this. Stop stinking, whether it's from your pits, your belly buttons, your butt, your grundles, whatever it might be. Mando can take care of the stink. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle odor level was at a 5 out of 10. With Mando, it was a 0. So don't be 5 out of 10 grundle, all right? Avoid that. They've got tons of great scents ranging from all sorts of things like bourbon leather to clover wood. So jump in with them. Go get with Mando today. You can get their starter pack for a fantastic deal. You can get $5 off that starter pack with the DNVR code and free shipping, which equates to about 40% off their starter pack. The starter pack comes with 2 different deodorants, both cream and tube deodorant, as well as 2 other options of your choosing. So you can get other stuff too from Mando. Again, use that DNVR code. Go to shopmando.com today. That's shopmando.com today. Let them know we sent you over there with the DNVR code. Support us a little bit too. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We'll keep rolling with the questions. Emerald says, in the postgame, Nate mentioned losing to a team without their top defenseman and scorer. Megan Angley brought this up at the press conference, and CMac deflected by saying Nate's an emotional guy. Why is the key point not being addressed, especially during the press conference? Again, I don't really agree with the premise of the question. First of all, you're interviewing players 2 minutes after their season just ended, so yeah, they're going to be pretty emotional. Secondly, the main topic was brought up repeatedly, that they weren't good enough and they lost. So
I don't want to get into this. I retract. I didn't make any noise.
Hey.
Forget me.
Do it.
I agree with what Eric said. I agree with what Eric said earlier. They didn't make the plays in a couple of the big moments in the series. Yeah. The idea that they weren't good enough, I think, is nonsense.
They were one
really,
goal
really
from
good in
moving
that
on
series.
From the series. Yeah, at 5-on-5, they were pretty definitively better, I would say, but.
They were by far the better team at 5-on-5. Their special teams cost them a series. And yes, they failed in a couple of the big moments in the series. It's just true. But, God, man, not every loss is because you got your head kicked in. Sometimes hockey things just happen. Sometimes it just happens. And it sucks to be in this position, but the Avalanche played really well in that series outside of those couple of moments.
Just to follow up on that, if you can feel like the Avs you don't think did enough to address whatever, sure, you can feel your opinion on what you think the Avs should have done, but I think we all agree they lost the series on special teams, and the first thing they announced in that press conference is they fired their power play coach. So
yeah, it's true. It's true.
I don't know. Okay. Go ahead.
Also, just something to touch on. The Avalanche didn't trade Mikko Rantanen into Dallas.
Yeah, also true.
Just something that I feel like I would I've been wanting to say. Just a reminder. They didn't make that decision.
They did not.
And then the only thing I'm going to add, I'll just add to this. And Joe alluded to it. And always remember in the front office, guys have their strengths, guys have their weaknesses, just like a team. And CMac has a lot of strengths, and Joe has a lot of strengths. And the strength is that he was a superstar Hall of Fame player. That's got a lot of value. And he was there when things were really bad, and he was there when things turned, and he was there from what Rudo talked about, not me that always brings up Avalanche 1.0, but the 96 to 01, Joe was there. He was a catalyst. He was the main guy. He was the Cale Makar, the Nathan McKinnon. He was a superstar. That sometimes, and his answer was there the other day when asked about what Nate said after a game. But we all know Nate, when he's mad, like he'll say stuff, and does it really resonate or does it make sense or no? But Joe answered the question. Sometimes it just doesn't go your way, and that's that simple. Sometimes you have to look at that. It's like Cale. He was talking about Cale, and he was talking about the McKinnon comment. And it's like sometimes it just doesn't go your way, and you can't just, like I said to you, you make one play and it's a totally different series in my book. So then all of a sudden you're a bad team because you didn't make that play. I don't think so. Well, the object is to make the play because you wouldn't be here talking, we'd be here watching tonight. But that's the fine line, but they're still there, and they're still in that window where they can win, especially after what they do with the coaching they have and the front office that they have.
I also wonder how much this loss, Sakic is able to look at how Makar played in this series and see this loss and say, he'll definitely be better next year. The same way that Sakic wasn't very good.
One goal on a goalie,
yeah, where Sakic wasn't very good in 2000.
True.
The year 2000 in that postseason. It was arguably the worst postseason of his career, and that's when he had the meeting on the airplane, and it was like, hey, we need you to be better next year. I would be willing to bet that same meeting took place with Cale Makar, where they said, hey, we need you to be better next year. You got to get it back for us, buddy. And I think we'll see a better Cale Makar, but
same premise. I don't think Cale Makar needs a meeting, if I'm honest about it. But yes, I get what
it
you're
helps
saying.
Though.
Oh, sure, I
mean, it helps.
It does.
Like, come on. Like, anytime any of us make a big mistake in our life, do we need somebody to come and be like, hey, that was a big mistake? No. You know when you do something dumb. You know when you mess something up. But sometimes it's more powerful to have somebody close to you that you love and care about and respect come to you and put a hand on your shoulder and say, hey, we got to have better from you, man. We've got to have better. And that really resonates. And I would bet a lot of dollars that I don't have that Cale Makar had that conversation after that game, after Game 7. And
even Jog, just to add to Jog right there, he says your father said it best. I totally agree, and I said it the other day. I do believe the better team lost. Now that's not being a sore loser. For me, they were the better.
If you're the better team, you won the series. Were they the better team at 5-on-5? Yes. Were they the better team in certain areas? Yes. But if they were the better team, they should have won.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. What I'm trying to tell you is, if you were asking me to go play 10 series in a row, the Avs are going to beat them with the team that team that they had.
I think that's what that means. That's what that 8 out of 10 times, but they didn't this time.
I agree. That's what that comment says. The better team lost. That's what I'm saying. I sincerely believe the Avalanche are a better team, but you're right. They didn't do it, and I told you that earlier. When it came time to make plays, they didn't do it.
Yeah,
and
that's why we're doing a mailbag. And
that's it.
Not talking about round 2. Yep.
That's it.
Yep. All right. We got a bunch of questions that are pretty similar to ones that we already answered, so I'm not going to hash them out, but thank you for the questions, Simon, Matt, Coach H, Jesse, and Billy. All right. The main question that we put on the title of the show today, and we can expand this into talking about Brock Nelson as well, I think, but internally, when the Avs are looking at someone like Jonathan Drouin, this comes from Nicholas, should they re-sign Drouin? And if so, what max money and term should they be looking at?
This is a hard question because the injury issues cost him a lot of games this season. Last season was one of his healthiest seasons of his NHL career. And I know that a lot of him missing games in his career have been to non-physical injury related issues. So I understand where it's like, oh, you don't want to label him injury prone. He's injury prone. He really struggled this year with rib injury that just kind of never really faded, and then he just had to tough his way through it. And I think we saw some of the side effects of that. He was struggling in a postseason series to get it going, and then in the top 6 he was fine, but when he got moved down to the third line, that third line was a problem. And this is not me saying that the third line was a problem because Jonathan Drouin was on it. Charlie Coyle wasn't very good in that series, and Yoel Kiviranta might as well not have existed. Yep. That was not a good line. They were not good in that series, and it was really the only forward line that you looked at and said, games 1 through 7, you just weren't very good. You had one good game in game 4 where you they didn't really need you. And so with Duran, I think 56 points in 79 games his first year. This year he had 37 points in 43 games. Really productive. And I think he's a good offensive player. He can help you on a power play. There are a lot of things that you like about Duran, but unless he's giving you a third sweetheart deal, you're probably not going to see him back in Colorado. I don't know that I would go more than 3 years on any contract with him, and I don't know that I would exceed $4 million just because you have so many other needs elsewhere on your roster that trying to spend on Jonathan Drouin is a problem. And if Landeskog is back, you have a top 6, save for the second line center spot.
Yeah.
So
given the injury trouble he's had, given the situation the Avs are in, I think Drouin kind of falls into that spot that every team has a guy where it's like, we're going to go deal with all of our other stuff first. We're going to talk to all of our other expected UFAs. We might even do some tampering in the tampering period, have a good idea of what might be coming our way in free agency. And then you go to Jonathan Drouin and then say, hey, this is what cap space we have left. Take it or leave it.
I mean, it's
and Landy's got a lot to say with that. I remember at the day, like, we didn't know if Landy was going to play, and that's a big hurdle for him, probably in my book.
Yeah,
somewhere, right? You know what I mean? Somewhere connected.
They're going to have to get a second line center somewhere, whether that's re-signing Brock Nelson or making a fourth trade to fill this spot.
Yep.
So they've got to invest more resources into that. So unless they trade out one of their top 6 guys, whether that's Necas, Nichushkin, Lehkonen, it would have to be one of those 3 guys get moved out in order to keep Drouin. So that's just kind of where the math is right now today, looking at it. Keeping Jonathan Drouin is going to be a real challenge for them.
No.
And I don't know that this is a specific question, but AJ, you kind of alluded to it. Whether it's Brock Nelson or someone else, the Avs need to make decisions about their center depth first, right?
Yeah. And if that answer is, well, Charlie Coyle is now your second line center at $5 million, I mean, the price tag is right. The production isn't.
Yeah.
I know that he, had an insane streak of production at the very end of the season. He ended up with 13 points in 19 games, but he had like 10 games where he didn't do anything production-wise. If Charlie Coyle's your second line center, congrats. You've made a different version of what Boston failed with. They had center problems too, and Charlie Coyle being in their top 6 was a big reason why they ended up ultimately struggling over time. So I'm not in love with Charlie Coyle as your answer at second line center. If that happens, I think it's a weakness on their roster.
If Charlie Coyle's your 2C on October 15th, fine, whatever. If Charlie Coyle's your 2C on March 15th, you feel weak at center.
Yeah, well said. And in Boston,
but that means that you are once again weak at second line center the entire season and pouring more assets into this. And then what have you done for your third line center? Is it Jack Drury and then you just go and sign a fourth line center? So you're going to break up one of the most effective fourth lines in the league to try and patch up your third line? I just I am so annoyed, man.
That's why it's fun.
A lot of work to do.
Challenging.
I'm so annoyed at this prospect of Charlie Coyle as the second line center that I don't even want to consider it. Yes, he would be overpaid as a third line center. I can live with that. But instead of making him the second line center,
I would agree.
Just because he makes $5 million, now he's the 2C. I don't want to. No, thank you.
Let's flip this to the other side. A question from Snibor. I don't know how to say names. Again, apologies. Even though we might not like it, does Sam Malinski's play and contract make one of our other D-men expendable for further improved depth? How would that be a UFA D or F or both? I mean, I think Sam Malinski is important to the Avs because there is some cost control with him coming into this season. I know he has arbitration rights, but he's not going to make a lot of money in that. Like, he had a 15-point year. This is not a guy that's about to get paid this offseason. So it's a bottom-pairing defenseman that the Avs have some cost control over, that they trust to be an NHL caliber player. But even with Malinski signed, the Avs still have another empty D slot in their lineup. Now, it's pretty likely you're looking at moving on from at least one of their middle pairing D because of cap reasons more than anything else. But yeah, I would say Malinski is important to the Avs because of his cost effectiveness.
Yeah, I think that, we didn't really talk about him much in the small defenseman conversation earlier in the show, but he would be another guy that you're saying is undersized at 5'11", 190.
Yeah,
he's a touch undersized, but he was also much better defensively than I was expecting. He ended up being a league average defender, and for a third pairing guy on your right side, getting him for $1 million next year would be fine. There would be no issues with that from Sam Malinski. If you're trying to get him on a multi-year deal, you're gonna have to spend some money. For me, qualifying offer. He accepts the qualifying offer, and you worry about next year. Even though he's staring down the barrel of free agency, if he goes off and has a huge year and earns a payday elsewhere, then he does. Because if you're looking at it, you have Gulyev in theory coming over after next season from Russia, and then you're talking about you do not want a defense with Sam Girard, Mikhail Gulyev, and Sam Malinski. That is too small of a defense. So you'll have some decisions to make. Either Gulyev is going to get moved in another deal, or Girard gets moved, or Malinski gets moved. Where does all of that fit? And with Malinski, I think it's easy to just say, hey, just give him his qualifying offer. It's $1 million, and then move on. Let him outplay that this season, and you go in with way more confidence this year than last year, and that in at least the right side of your third pairing with Malinski, because he did have some really good showings. And I know that people have decided that Dallas just ran over the Avalanche, like physically ran them over, but
not really true at all. Yeah,
it's not. And the Girard Malinski pairing actually had quite a bit of success against that loaded star.
Bye. All right. Well, AJ's connection dips out. We can move on.
Well,
But I'm sorry.
No, this is your fault.
Yeah, this was definitely on me. I accidentally hit a thing.
The passion, the heat of the moment.
It's true. I haven't been on one in a while. The Sams were actually pretty effective against the Stars. They had moments, but everybody had moments. You look at the Stars defensemen, and those guys had moments where they did get run over by Colorado. But it's funny that whoever wins the series, we don't talk about what went wrong for those guys. So we have to start making stuff up about how the Avs lost. And I don't think that the Sams being a pairing together is one of the reasons why they lost.
I would agree.
The only thing I'm going to add on Malinski is you can say you want, like, oh, trade Gerard, trade Manson, until you put Sam Malinski in that top four for a while and for a long period of time, you don't know what you got. You don't know if he can sustain those minutes. Those are top minutes. You're playing against middle six forwards. You're playing against different assignments than being a third pair guy when you're mostly playing against fourth liners and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying Sam can't do it. It's not what I said. I'm saying that you'll have to wait and see. So that's the tough part because, his price can be easy. That's what I would do. I would do a QO, see what happens, and see how much he can take. How much can he eat? You don't know. You've never really seen it, right? So
yeah. A lot. Go ahead.
Can I just for the record, at even strength in this series against Dallas, 0 goals scored against 4 Avalanche players. Jack Drury, Parker Kelly. That fourth line was great. No surprise there. Yeah. Ross Colton, who played 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Sam Malinski, who had just shy of 70 even strength minutes, 0 goals against. So this idea that they got run over by Mikko Rantanen is garbage, and you should not listen to it. He was not on the ice for a single even strength goal against in that series. He played 5 of those games. So again,
Mikko also had
please,
no points in the first 4 games. Like I get the recency bias, but
I just beg people to look at what actually happened and don't make up things about. We do not need to invent narratives about why the Avalanche lost. Okay, there are plenty of them that are right there in front of you that actually exist, and Sam Malinski getting run over isn't one of them.
We can move on. There are a lot of you with random speculation about players both on the Avs or potential targets for the Avs in trades or free agency. I would love to get into that stuff, but the reality is it's just too early in the offseason to make realistic conversations about who's available, what are realistic targets. So if you said, should the Avs trade a guy or trade for a guy? My answer to you is maybe. We'll see by the end of May or sometime in June if the guy you want is even available or if the Avs have interest in trading some of the guys you guys want to move on from. I think realistically, the Avs are going to have to move on from some guys. I think you can probably narrow that down. You're probably looking, like I said, at one of your middle pairing D. There's a good chance you're looking at one of your third bit line-ish forwards. But the moves they're going to make are the moves that make sense when the time comes. And that changes in a hurry in the NHL a lot. Sorry, I can't give you a better answer.
I don't know how you keep Kiviranta. Just because he had he had like a big breakout regular season.
And then completely ghosted the playoffs. Yeah, I agree. But
yeah. He was not very good in the playoffs. Offensively, he was not very good. And that was kind of that problem that with that line is that they couldn't finish anything. I think their process was solid, but Kiviranta, like if you're relying on him for offense, you're in a bad way. So that's a problem. I think Ross Colton making $4 million a year, unless you're making Charlie Coyle the 2C and Ross Colton your 3C, which that is a choice if they decide to go with that. But unless they do something like that, I don't know that Ross Colton at $4 million is going to be a palatable solution for a third pairing wing. And I don't think Miles Wood will be back. I think they will do whatever they have to do to get out of Miles Wood's deal, which
I would agree.
Regardless of how I feel about it, I think the Avalanche showed that they were pretty over it.
You can't have $2.5 million sitting in the press box.
No.
Can't do that.
Any more questions on the thing or no? No.
I mean, I think we mostly covered them. Again, I'm sorry we can't get into more detail on which trades the Avs should make because it's just hard to do that right now. But if you have something from chat or whatever, go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to add something from yesterday from chat. Somebody in chat yesterday said that AJ, were you there yesterday? No, you weren't there. Somebody in chat yesterday said that I said that chat is a bunch of morons, basically. I don't remember what was said, but And actually, it was the opposite because I started the show by saying, Rudo knows that I never make people feel inferior. I don't talk down the people, like, meaning like, oh, you didn't play and you don't know. I've said it. My father never played at those levels, and he's a Hall of Famer. So I'll never use that card, and I never have. So I started by saying that. Yes, I said, all I can say is when I answer questions, sometimes I bring a different perspective because I've been there, A, as a player, B, in management. And a lot of players out there will tell you, including Joe Sakic, because I was there when he was first year in management, first few years, you think you know everything when you're a player, and then you go work upstairs and you have no idea. Your eyes are wide open. Andrew Cogliano right now. So all I said is I bring that perspective sometimes because I've seen it and I've been there. But I don't make people feel like crap. And it's not once yesterday did I say chat is dumb or whatever the person said that I said. And then he, proceeded to say that I'm a washed up. I rode my dad's coattails, which is fine. We're going to leave my dad out of this. My dad's not here to defend himself, and he would never let anyone ride his coattails. So we can leave that part. The daddy jokes are fine. It's all good. I got no problem. But not once. Chat is a big part of why we do this. You guys taught me this, and I enjoy it. And I try as much as, even though I can't see, because I'm stupid, I should wear glasses. Try to get chat involved because I love chat. But when I read that I'm a washed up guy that's now on YouTube, you know what I mean? Like, well, I got to be honest with you, it's by choice because I love my two partners right there. I love Tiff, and I really, really, how do I say that? Like, I really enjoy it. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy talking hockey with my two partners, and I enjoy talking hockey with Chat. So not once did I ever disrespect Chat. So we'll put an end to that. And I don't believe in that. And again, people can say whatever they want. They don't like my takes. I don't care. Rudo doesn't like my takes. You don't like my takes. I don't like Rudo. It's okay. It's called conversations. We can't always agree on everything we're saying. But there's always a level of respect. And not once do I make you two feel that, or Tiff, and Tiff can chime in.
As long as we don't talk about my food takes, at least.
Yeah.
Apparently, I have the bad food takes around here, man.
And I always love it. And Chat, there might be takes that I don't agree with, but that's okay. And then they don't agree with my take. That's fine. That's why we're having this. And sometimes no one's right. So that doesn't mean that two people have different perspective that it's wrong. But we'll leave it at that. But not once that I ever disrespected Chat, and I never will. So just wanted to say that.
That's up to me. I disrespect the Chat. That's why they don't let me on the pod anymore.
No, look, people cross the line all the time, but differing opinions is part of what makes sports culture so cool. Is people can disagree and still love the same team.
Sure.
And live their life. We are heading towards overtime in a few minutes here, so if you're watching on TV, jump over to thednvr.com to continue the conversation as we're about to answer a bunch of questions that came from our live chat. We'll go through these pretty quick, but I don't know. Tiff sent me them. I don't know who asked them, so sorry if I don't say your name. But question number 1, why are the Avs so bad at developing players? No picks or prospects that are coming up. This isn't really true anymore. When I started at DNVR, the Avs were really, really bad at developing players. Over the last 5 years, they've actually been pretty decent at developing players on the defensive side. They've developed a number of defensemen that have turned into everyday NHLers, if not for the Avs, for other teams around the league. So on the defensive side, they've done a pretty decent job. On the forward side, it's rougher. There is some pretty rough edges in their development of forwards. LOC kind of the standout that breaks that mold. But yeah, and a lot of this is chicken or the egg, right? Is the problem drafting guys that are hard to develop, or is the problem they're not developing their drafted guys? Even then, you have a couple of guys, and we'll see if Kovalenko is still in the league next year. But the forward development needs to be better. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, and it has not helped their cause that they keep trading picks away. But I also think that we're talking about, Bowen Byram has not turned into a productive everyday like two-way defenseman the way that we thought. Right now, he's a better offensive defenseman than anything else. He was fantastic in the cup run, and that was about it. it's tough because like Nikolai Kovalenko, even if he turns into a 10-year NHLer, the Avs didn't develop him. He played the KHL for like 6 years and then came over and jumped right into the NHL, played 40 games, and the Avs traded him. Like, they didn't develop Nikolai Kovalenko, like it's how did those did they do some yeoman's work developing Logan O'Connor, who who turned pro when he was like 23 or something?
Yeah.
Like it's just such a, they've done a decent job of finding avenues to get productive players. Sam Malinski is an undrafted college free agent.
Yep.
Yeah, he was 25 years old when he signed. Great. Oh. But that's why we're talking about free agency with him right now. But look, they look like they got a real find in Ivan Prishchapov at the end of the 7th round last year. But there needs to be more development from him. Ivan is another guy that it looks like they should get an NHL player, even if it's like a call-up guy more than like an everyday guy. It looks like they might get another NHL guy there. So if they end up with NHL players out of Ivan and Prishchapov, they've done really well.
Better. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the holes that get filled. Cal Ritchie, you and I were always the Cal Ritchie haters, so now that he's gone, it's easy for us to be like open haters about it. But like to me, it still doesn't look like Cal Ritchie is headed to being a top 6 player in the NHL and more of a middle 6 player. And I don't know that it's like a second line. Like, I think the second line center dream is, I think is a real stretch for me to buy that.
Got a long way to go, put it to you that way.
Yeah, and even offensively, he just didn't play with that kind of pace. He was a teenager in his brief time with the Avalanche. He was very young. Yeah. There's so long for him to go. We'll see. Alex Newhook. Did the Avs ruin Alex Newhook? Is there a reason he hasn't like gone off in Montreal? Is it because he's just like an okay NHL player? Did the Avalanche ruin him? Like, there are some. Chad just mentions Ryan Graves. Ryan Graves is a great example of they've been able to take guys from other organizations and help turn them into players. Keaton Middleton is more of a rotational guy for me, but that's another guy.
Englund has found Andreas a rotational spot.
Is another guy.
Nolan Pratt.
Like, I think that the organization deserves a lot of credit for what they've done on the back end and getting some of these bottom pairing guys and helping turn them into serviceable players. Hell, we can even put Jack Johnson on this list, who was god awful away from Colorado and was just regular awful for a lot of his time in Colorado.
A little bit for sure.
Yeah, like was bottom of the barrel quality, but was at times serviceable, right? Like the Avalanche have done well there. They have not done well at the forward position. And why that is, I genuinely do not know. I wish I had a better idea. Maybe this is something we can get on the phone with Brian Wilsey in the offseason and we can sit down and talk to him and be like, hey, what's going on here? Like, why is it at forward in particular, you guys are having a hard time getting guys into the NHL? I do think their culture has not helped that. And we heard Nathan McKinnon say, young guys aren't going to help us win. Buddy, there's a salary cap. And I know that means you have to do some math, and that sucks. But, like, you do need, in like, Drouin and Evan Rodriguez are, like... Nichushkin, like, they've done well with reclamation projects. Yeah, but getting guys from... Exactly. Getting guys from amateur into pro into everyday NHLers, it has not gone well for them. And I think that there are probably a lot of angles to that.
Is it? Do you have to say overtime, or are we? I mean, obviously,
I already did.
Oh, did I miss that? Shoot, sorry.
Yeah.
But sorry, Claudia's bringing Martin Kaut. That's a great example. But sometimes you have to look at it, and again, I'm going to be rude here. Like, that's a bad pick in my book. Again, that you can develop all you want. It's like you can develop something; it will never become a player. That's a bad pick. You know what I mean? You're not going to nail every pick. And, God bless Marty. I don't know. I'm just, but that was a bad pick. And that's why he's not. That's what I mean. He's not in the NHL. He's not near the NHL. And then I just want to say something. Claudia, or somebody said something. I was dying right now. It made me smile so bad. Ace here. It's Ace. Oh, my God. I was dying. I don't know if you guys have been following that, but that was so Claudia. I think that's awesome.
People really don't like the intermission broadcasts on TNT or
No, but
ESPN.
it's everywhere. Like Ace here, Ace. And again, I'm not making fun of Anson. It's a funny take. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he's not getting mad at that, but it's funny, because it's taken a life of its own.
I think we can go a little bit longer here, so we have some more questions from the chat. I'm not really gonna give you a straight answer on this one, asking how clutch are Nate and Makar and others. I know we talk about clutch between me and E a lot, but I actually more so subscribe to the way AJ thinks about clutch. Clutch is not about stepping up to the moment. It's about the players that don't shy away from the moment. Plenty of players shrink in those moments. I don't think McKinnon or Makar particularly shrink from those moments, but they also don't have a lot of track record of big moments that ended up being successful. Now, Nathan McKinnon should have one from round 2 of their Stanley Cup run, but the team around him let that moment down. So it's hard to say what is clutch.
Could I just to help prove my point here? Just chat. The people hanging out in chat right now, give me a quick answer. Who is the most clutch player on the Avalanche right now?
You put Avs as the caveat, and then I had to stop talking.
I assume Lehkonen. Like I would assume.
That's leading. I was not going to say it, but I am also assuming it's Arturi Lehkonen. And each of the last 2 postseasons, what have we seen from Arturi Lehkonen?
Not a whole lot of clutch.
Game 6 of last year in overtime, fails to score on the doorstep. Yep.
Game 3 of this
and
year
again
too?
This season.
Yeah.
And again in this season.
Yep.
You have Arturi Lehkonen, the guy who's like, oh, he's multiple series clinching goals and all that, right? Like,
yep.
He's been great, right? He has those moments, but he also has moments where he hasn't done it. Does that make him less clutch? Does that tarnish his legacy? Because I don't see that part of it get talked about. We usually just go, well, he's Arturi Lehkonen.
People remember the
he's
moments,
like
not
the fifth forward.
Moments. Yeah.
Right. And this is why I'm not a huge fan of the clutch conversation, because it's really hard to make those moments consistently in the postseason. For everybody.
Yep. Fair enough. E, anything to add there? Should I go next question?
Joe was clutch. He's the best I've ever seen.
Oh, I think that Sakic is a great example of why I think clutch would exist. It does exist, but in a different form than how we talk about it. You see players, their postseason numbers go down because the playoffs get harder. Sakic was unbelievable in the postseason. Sakic has 9 overtime playoff winners, most in NHL history.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, pretty big.
He didn't shy away from any of those moments, and that's what those moments do to players.
Also,
they make their game smaller, and Sakic's didn't get smaller. He was awesome.
Yes, it didn't get smaller, but also, a guy with one of the greatest wrist shots ever has a bunch of big goals. Shocking.
Good.
Right, like
good.
Man, Marty Necas. There's a lot of conversation about Marty Necas. Should the Avs extend him? Should they shop him? I would expect they want to extend him. How realistic is that this offseason as opposed to does Necas want to play out the year and earn more money or whatever? I don't know. We'll see. Don't know that there's a ton else to say there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would give Marty Necas $8 million.
If you wanted 8, I'd sign him today. Sure.
Yeah, I would do it for 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'm not going to be picky on the years.
Yeah. I don't think that I see this, we like to rip on Nathan McKinnon. That's because his expectations for him are sky high. So when he falls short of sky high expectations, yeah, he's a little disappointing. But I don't think Nathan McKinnon is why the Avs are sitting at home right now. I think it's Cale Makar.
Yeah. McKinnon had 7 goals in this series.
Yeah, it's 7 goals in that series. Give me a break, dude. So I think that I think with Necas, I would start at $8 million, but I'm not in a hurry to have that conversation.
Yep. Gonna skip over the rest of these trade ones just because it is what it is.
Yeah.
Is Landy's knee still a question? Yes. Clearly, he proved he can do it for 4 games in the playoffs. He can handle playoff physicality, but I fully expect him to be good to go at the start of the season. But what happens to that knee after 40 games? What happens after the continued stress of a regular season? Hopefully it's fine, but you won't know until you get there. The only other one is, when will Nabokov be here? He could come over this offseason. Remains to be determined. The Avs are pretty crowded on goalies, so we'll see.
Well, CMac said the other day that they want him over here, but they're still negotiating to do. I don't know, like, if he comes over here, where does he play? Like, what? I
assume
it feels
you
obvious
end
to
up
be like
making
he's
a
the starter
tandem
in
with
Loveland.
Minor. Yeah, like.
But the thing is that Trent Minor has been a fantastic goaltender for the
really
Eagles
good.
this season. And, like, if you want to split that job and turn it into, Minor and Nabokov, I'm good, man. That sounds fine with me. But from a development standpoint, is him splitting a season in the AHL more valuable than him getting a full season as the clear-cut number 1 guy in the KHL? And I think that's part of the conversation, because to me, it feels like a huge slap in the face to Trent Minor if they bring Nabokov in, and Nabokov is the number 1 guy, no doubt about it. He plays 50 games. Because Trent Minor has slowly worked his way up their system over the last couple of years. He's been the backup. He's played a lot of ECHL, and he has been really good. And he's the guy right now for a top-seeded Eagles team that is poised to make a deep playoff run. Are you really going to just relegate him to the backup status? And so I think that it's a tough balancing act of what's best for development, what's the smart decision here, because I think everybody would want him in North America, but what do you do with him when he gets here is a very fair question.
I certainly think the easiest thing would be to leave him in Russia, and we didn't really talk about it when we were talking about the Avs' developmental struggles, but the Avs have not developed a starting goaltender essentially ever. I mean, do you count Peter Budaj as a starter? I guess.
Mark Denis was a starter, just not here.
Yeah, exactly. So the goaltending development hasn't been particularly impressive either. That one I don't care about as much because goalies are nonsense and everything's dumb. But I don't know. Maybe it's worth something noting that a lot of the Avs' successful goaltenders have come from Europe or Russia or other organizations.
I know that the Avs overhauled their goaltending processes last year. They internally, from the ground up, started rebuilding how they evaluate and develop their goaltenders. And then they drafted 3 of them. So, it's going to take some time to see if that's any better than it used to be, but number 1 return from this season. And then they traded for Kevin Mandolisi, right?
Yep.
From Ottawa, and now he's like the Eagles' backup behind Trent Minor. And those things are going well. Like at the AHL level right now, you have to feel good about the guys that they've had in it. They even gave Adam Scheel an NHL deal because he was so solid for them this season. I'm less worried about Nabokov getting into Colorado's system because of some of those returns than I would have been in the past, but I mean, if it doesn't make you nervous, you're straight up lying.
Right. And the other side of it is Calvin Pickard is up 2-0 in the second round right now after being a third-string goalie for 5 years.
That's the one that got away, not Mikko. Calvin.
I love Calvin. 2 years in a row, he's helped the Oilers.
I'm so pumped for him. He's a good kid. I'm so happy for him. Honestly, it's awesome.
He was great. I really liked Calvin Pickard, the person.
Awesome guy.
To see him have this kind of career revival is easy to root for.
Yep. That's all I got. Anything else you guys wanted to touch on? No?
Yeah, be nice to Tiff in the chat if Tiff is going to stand up for us because people are saying not very nice things. We are a little family here, and we do go to bat for each other. So if you aren't a huge fan, of her saying, "Hey, be nice to people, or else." Get over it.
Yeah, all good. I no qualms banning you if you're clearly just stirring the pot. So
yeah.
Anyway, we're going to get out of here. We appreciate all the questions. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us for an off-day show. We're off this weekend. We'll be back next week, probably talking World Championships, probably talking playoffs. Who knows? You'll probably see Justin host a few shows next week as I'm going to be busy in the second half of the week. So we appreciate y'all. We'll see you on the next one. This has been the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I don't know, like and subscribe or something.
We all silly like the mayor.